there. Ren Talks is a talk show podcast presented by the Digital Ren Fair. Each of us are national touring performers at Renaissance festivals across the United States. My name is Victoria Van Arnam. I perform as the Lady Victoria. Joining us today is Olivia Harding, who performs as Liv the Druid with Music the Gathering, and Nicole Skelly of The Gwendolyn Show. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Oh boy, this is our first time getting the home crew back together again in over a year, I think, potentially. Maybe not. Internet time is weird.
Yeah, internet time is weird. It has been a while. It's been enough of a while that people have come up to me and started saying like, oh, I've been listening to Ren Talks. And I'll go, oh yeah, when was the last time that happened? Oh, speaking of which, Gwendolyn, if you're still listening to Ren Talks, I'm so glad that my voice is currently the voice inside your head at all times because you're now listening to my voice so much. I'm not referring to the Gwendolyn, just Gwendolyn, you know who you are if you're listening to this.
Yeah, so we're going to do like quick what's been going on in your worlds, what's been going on in the industry. There's been a lot shaken up now that the Ren fairs are all fully back on site. Every fair has reopened pretty much. Every fair is back on their previous schedule. Some fairs have added other festivals, other dates. Where are we now?
I am currently at the Arizona Renaissance Festival, which is in the desert, and it's raining, so that's great. We had snow on site the last week of February. Like it snowed overnight on site. I got up at 7 o'clock in the morning. There was snow in everyone's cars. It was crazy. Like sometimes we'll have a cold day and there's the Superstition Mountains are like right across the street from the site. And you can see that the top quarter of the mountains has snow on it, but it never gets down here, but it did. So, wow. But it was gone. It was gone within an hour, like it melted. So yeah, I'm in Arizona and I am actually not doing my show here. I play Grace O'Malley, which is a 16th century Irish piratess. And I co-host the feast, the pleasure feast, but it's pirate, so it's the plunder feast. And those happen twice a day. It's an hour-and-a-half long dinner theater show with 5 courses of food and a couple different acts come in and all kinds of comedy and ridiculousness.
I've heard of some of the feasts at other festivals. I'm pretty sure that does Muskogee have one? Where's the other big fairs that have?
Yeah, Muskogee
Minnesota.
has a feast,
oh,
but not dated. Oh, they have like a Queen's Tea, but they have one big Pirates feast as one of their big night events. So it's not the daily thing like Arizona.
Mm-hmm. I know that Minnesota has the feast, and I want to say like Bristol has a feast, but those are the only other 2 that I know of that have feasts currently.
I think it's a pretty cool concept. Oh, Ohio does. Ohio has one.
Okay.
The addition of like extra ticketed experiences on top of the regular Ren Fair, right? Because like if you go to these feasts, there's typically like entertainment. I know the Ohio one has kind of like maybe a cycling, maybe like a couple of set characters, and then like some stuff like cycles in and out, music and things come in and out. So it's a cool way to like get a taste of the fair, especially if you're brand new to it, without having to like figure out the schedule and how everything's going to work.
That's a nice idea to get like, here's your smattering of what the fair offers.
I like it.
That's pretty cool. And where are you, Liv?
I'm glad you asked because I'm sure you have no idea. I am currently at the Florida Renaissance Festival. We are, as of like last year, we have Arnam the Warlock joining us, Arnie Parrott, who people might know from Bristol and popping in at other festivals. And so he is playing mainly bass as a 4th member of our group, which is awesome. And then you mentioned Muskogee, that's the next festival we do, and we will also have a 4th member. So Music Gathering is a little beefier in the spring of 2023 than usual. Yeah. And where are you, Victoria?
That's very exciting. I am also at the Florida Renaissance Festival. I know, it's a big surprise. I'm performing here as Blue Muse. So I'm also under kind of a different alias. This is the Blue Muse project is like Misty Bernard's concept project. It's sort of her umbrella name for anything that's not just like her doing her thing. And so I am a part of that, and it's incredibly exciting. We have a bass player, and we've just been playing some epic music. and it's a chance for me to get to be a part of a group and to get to stretch musically in a lot of different directions. Something I also really like about the Florida Renaissance Festival is that we have this early morning music consort where there's a massive group of us that get together and we perform actual early music at 10 o'clock in the morning, which is a little early. But it's basically the cannon goes off at 10 also. And so only the fans who like absolutely want to be there, like they scuttle in and they run to our stage. And then we're just kind of there playing these group pieces, which is like not seen pretty much at a lot of the Renaissance fairs where I am anymore, because who can pay a 4-piece, much less a 12-piece. Like we have had some incredible morning musics. Been enjoying that, and I've also just recently got a new mixing board where I'm able to record out all of the channels for our band as well as the harp and the minstrel, and so I'm really pleased to have some live recordings of these folks, just to share and to enjoy and to hopefully find parts that are good enough to make into a album. Maybe not, probably.
That's what we're working on now too. I know tons of people have been asking us for years, where's level 3? So music gathering, we've been trying to, it's much harder now. Like the 3 of us used to travel around as sort of a like in the same household, so it was a lot easier to record. Now it's a little trickier, and so we've been sort of like trying to figure out how to make it work for the past couple of years. Also been very reluctant to make it work because I think my fellow live musicians, a lot of them out there agree that recording is the worst process in the entire world. I hate it. You end up hating yourself, hating your instrument, hating your voice, hating everything about you. It is a horrible situation. Victoria, you were in the house for level 2, correct? When we were recording that, and you saw
Yes.
the psychological despair, the nights that we were up until like 5 a.m. It's horrendous. So anyone asking about level 3 and why it's not out yet, that's part of the reason. But we're hopefully going to do a live, meaning not live in front of an audience, but we're all playing the music together and it's being recorded at the same time kind of thing, rather than each having to do their own part. So actually this afternoon, I'm going to go work on some of that. So it's on the way. Level 3 is coming.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. Yeah, I've done the recording track by track, and then I've also done the live recording. And the only reason my past 3 albums came out was because I was able to do live recording for basically like the main chunk of it. And then I was able to either add a few extra people on later or some other configuration. But yeah, live recording, live in studio recording, like pro mic, pro mixing, pro setup, pro everything. But everybody plays at the same time. It's not like, pop songs where it's all separated, but like with folk music, like, and we play together all the time. That's what we're doing. We're performing minimum 4 shows a day every day for the weekend, right? So that's like we're getting through so many hours worth of material and so much hours worth of time together. And then recording is a different skill set. It's just a different skill set entirely. There are people who practice that skill set all the time. We practice the skill of showing up, performing, doing a thing, doing 12 things at once in most cases.
Yeah. And engaging. You can often see on stage someone who's an amazing, excellent studio musician because they're often like this. And like that's the difference between us and studio musicians. They will get it right all the time. I will get it wrong 80% of the time, but I will always be looking you in the face when I do it.
It's the eye contact. Yeah, like traditional Celtic music, like the musicians are always like so into their instrument. There is no like looking up, there's no smiling even. Like it's inappropriate to smile if you're playing like proper trad Celtic music, and it's just like, and Misty learned doing that and then now has to like be up and like showing up and stuff, and it's just like I'm sorry it's like this, but we have to.
I was getting all jealous and stuff about all your music stuff because I don't get to play like her. I mean, I have like 8 tin whistles. Like, I don't know what happened. Daisy gave me like 3.
Yes.
But then I was like, they're playing music and I'm not playing. But then I remembered that I'm starting to learn to play the bagpipes. I'm so excited.
That
I
is
have my
so
second
cool.
lesson in 2 days, and I get my own practice chanter, and it's really hard because my hands are real small and those holes are far apart, but I'm gonna learn the bagpipes. And I've been wanting to do it for years and years. So
That's so
Yes.
awesome. I love that.
That'd be great. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we need more
bagpipe
pipe and
all
drum
over the
bands.
place.
Honestly, let's go. Female pipe and drum
Do
bands.
we?
I'm ready for it.
Female,
I was
Uh-huh.
cracking up at Brevard because I noticed that at a certain point that we had every subgenre of bagpipe group, because we had like an improvisational jazz bagpipe group. If anybody hasn't seen the Freestylers of Piping, I am obsessed with them. They are amazing.
They're the best things I have seen
I'm
in
writing
years,
them down.
ever. Years,
Yep.
potentially. Just, yeah.
So good. And then there's Albanach, and they're the ones that are sort of more punk, correct? And then there was Kudu who gone like full metal. So I'm like, we've got the punk, we've got the jazz, we've got the metal. It's like, but we don't have a standard traditional, we're going into war in the 1700s.
I think they were
group.
supposed to be there. It was that crew that I can't remember where they're from. Maybe Oklahoma. The father-daughter combo. They were supposed to be there, but I think something went afoul. I'm not sure in which direction or where, but we were in fact supposed to actually have like proper trad like honky toots, Scottish program, but we didn't, which that was a lot of bagpipes already.
You know that this episode of Ren Talks is now going to be called the Honky Toot Scottish program, right?
Very good. It's going to come out in time for St. Patrick's Day, so that'll work out just fine.
Get it done in 2 days.
Yes, ma'am.
Bagpipes.
Excellent. So that's where we are. It's also interesting seeing the social media increase. So we saw a lot of social media and Ren fairs like getting going, but there's definitely been massive increases. Like I follow the Reddit for Ren fairs, and the population of that has been exploding. A lot of the conversation on the fan pages on Facebook have been really gathering speed and coalescing like around their fairs instead of just like spread out. And it's been really interesting seeing the impact of those communities growing on the Ren fairs themselves. Ohio in particular has a very active online community, and they have like a trading program that they do. And so people will get online and talk about like what they're going to prepare for their trading trinket and how they're going to be ready for the weekend, what they're going to wear. And it's really cool to see that much engagement with that.
Mm-hmm. I've also seen, not all of them, but specific festivals also specifically upping and professionalizing their social media game, which has been cool to watch.
I'm so glad to hear that, because there were several massive faux pas done by Renaissance festivals last year online. And it's like, on one hand, I'm glad that the Ren Fair is such a niche, so that these incredibly large corporations can in fact mess up on very publicly on social media and not be dragged through the mud for it. But on the other hand,
when they deserve to be, though.
Yeah, but when they have in fact done things to deserve it, but that now we really are getting a lot more eyes on things, and it's really not appropriate to be posting some weird memes up on your main page,
Yeah, I know that Asia, my bandmate, had joked around a couple of years ago that she wanted to make an Instagram account, which was all just bad social media of Ren fairs. But I haven't seen as many good examples for that Instagram account recently, so that's good.
Yeah, we're very pleased at that overall improvement, and just the impact of TikTok, like alone. Jack the Whipper is here at the Florida Ren Fair, and his crowds are packed every single time. He is also a great performer, an incredible presenter, very talented. Right. He deserves it. Again, these are things that deserve what they're getting. But like that stage is difficult. it's a difficult stage. The stage, the Goodnight Pub stage at Flarf is very, very hot. It's right next to a bunch of bars. It's not like not a focused stage necessarily. And he absolutely tears it to pieces every single time. And it is so cool to see that. And a lot of that is because people come here specifically to see him. And that's pretty cool.
He was at Maryland for the first weekend last season, and his audiences were he was on what I think is the stage with the biggest house at Maryland. I might be wrong, but one of the biggest 2 stages, filled, standing room only. Everyone knew, and he did the whole like, how many of you have seen me before in real life? How many of you have seen me on TikTok? And it was like people come just for him, which is awesome. Because he is, like Victoria said, he is a fantastic performer. He has a great stage presence, and he's a talented whip artist, cracker person.
Whippersnapper.
So he whippersnapper. So he does deserve it. But it's fascinating to watch that have happened. And I don't TikTok. I don't know how it works. So I never saw his TikToks, but I heard about him when it was announced he was going to be at Maryland. All the fans were like, "Oh my God, we have to go!" And so for him to be such a big draw for festivals, how am I going to say this? For him, he's such a big draw, his show and himself, that when a festival hires them, I can't imagine that their attendance doesn't go up for the weekends that he's there, right? And I don't know very many other festivals that just by word of mouth, that works for, you know?
Yeah.
Like I've seen at a couple of festivals where there's been a long time performer there, and then they didn't come back for whatever reason the next season, and people were like, "Well, I'm not going. They're the only reason I go to that festival, so we're not going." And me and my 20 friends, and it's like, well, you're not gonna make a huge difference on the gate if you do that. But with Jacques Whipper, like, I think he probably does make a difference on the gate, which is really interesting.
Yeah, and we've talked before on this podcast about how to get hired at festivals, because it's not as easy as just saying like, I want to come to your festival. You have to actually get hired. And I can't remember if it was here, but we've talked before in the past about how much does it actually help you in getting hired to have a strong social media presence. Because on one hand, you could say, these are people I could potentially bring to your festival, because I know all 3 of us had people travel from their home in some state across the country to whatever festival it is for the very first time to see one of our groups. But it's hard because you're like, how many of this number are actually local or going to come? But he has the power of being able to say, like, how many of you are coming just because you saw me on TikTok, and take a picture of that and show that to any entertainment director. And that's bingo, you're in.
Yeah.
His virality is massive, and it is totally warranted, but absolutely like what Ren Fair performers are capable of to a certain extent, you know, and like what they've been kind of not needing to engage with as much, you know, because like this is the same, our industry is mimicking the music industry and entertainment industry as a whole to some extent in general, right? Like now, if you don't have a TikTok following, you're not going to get to produce the album, or you're not going to get the book deal. Like there's like a bunch of things, like people producers are realizing that it's a safer bet to go with somebody who has a guaranteed audience already, that if they go ahead and start posting, I'm just written this book, it's gonna come out, then they're gonna have a guaranteed purchase base, at least to some extent. And I think that's I'm interested in seeing if that's going to change anything that we've got going on, but I really don't know.
Yeah,
it's a hard thing for me to think about sometimes, because that like you saying that makes me worried. I'm like, wait, how many fans do I have on Facebook? And because we've all talked about this before on the podcast too, I think, where people are like, what do you do during the week? And it's like, well, I have to do all the admin, I have to do all the social media, I have to do all the booking, I have to do finding my lodging and all my costuming and writing my shows and blah 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 blah. So all of us are busy, and you guys practice during the week, like instrumentalists, and soon I will be with my bagpipe chanter.
yeah.
But, it makes me personally nervous, because I am always like, oh, a new fair. Like I've done so many festivals and so many times been the new person or been the new act, that it's like, if they looked at my Facebook, me compared to another solo performer that I know that has like twice as many Facebook followers as I do. But here's the counter, I guess, to that is like, Does that mean it's Facebook followers who like clicked like once and don't interact with their posts? Or, you know what I mean? Or like if a producer or an entertainment director goes to like your videos on your Facebook and they have however many views, like, is that more impactful than just the number of followers? And part of me is like, it should be like the interaction you get on social media should be more impactful than just the number of followers, straight number of followers.
But we did just discuss the lack of maybe like useful knowledging how to say like Ren fairs have a difficult relationship with social media already. And so for them to be able to identify the appropriate metrics to judge an act by might help in odd directions as well. You know, so like I have not been super active for the past like 3 months, but I still have 50,000 followers on Instagram and 80,000 on TikTok. And it's like, we know that TikTok followers do not, in fact, translate to action. It does not. It does not have anything to do with action. You can have 1.5 million followers and you can sell like 2 things. Unless you're Jack the Whipper.
Yeah.
I also love just what a huge liar you are, Victoria, because you stream every gosh darn Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly seeing your stories and posts. So maybe it's less than what you used to do, but if you saying that you've not been very active over the past 3 months makes me concerned, because we post maybe once a week. Oops. So
I haven't made any reels. I lost my bonus program for Instagram for the reels. Like I got it and then I lost it. And I'm not sure if I've still got the Facebook one because I just haven't even I haven't had the guts to go and look at it. Just hurts.
I don't even know half the words you guys are saying. I mean, I don't know like what you just said about bonus stuff. I do know what reels are, but I don't understand those either. So I haven't done them. And now I'm like, wait, now I have to do reels on Instagram.
Nicole, you would be so good at reels. Like I wish that that we had time to actually like learn how to use new media. And then B, that we could be together and we could do like a reels creation.
I learned all this new social media stuff over when I wasn't performing, or when I was only streaming when everything was shut down in 2020.
Right?
And now I'm like, no.
I
had the brain space. Yeah. I could learn how to use Zoom or Twitch or whatever. And now I'm like, I have to do more with Twitch. When do I figure that out? When do I even find time to stream on Twitch? I'm in the desert. We don't have internet all the time.
Yeah. This conversation was reminding me in terms of promoting awesome Ren Fair people also doing podcasts, because my day job, at least for now, is doing social media and stuff like that. So I'm almost sort of like forced to know a lot about this stuff. But I spoke about my day job on a really awesome podcast from Cassie Townsend called Work History. And it's not, when I was on the program, I think it was all Ren Fair people who had other jobs, but I don't think that's the rule. She's interviewing just people with interesting jobs. So if anyone's curious about sort of work Ren Fair balance or just really cool jobs, check out that podcast because it's awesome.
That's cool.
Awesome. Yeah. We will definitely go and investigate that.
Sorry. I don't know. I assume you two have this too, because we're crazy spicy creative peoples. This is creative peoples for me now. But like so many ideas of like new shows and new streams and new albums, not for me but for you, and like podcasts and this and this and this, and it's so hard sometimes to for me, especially because I have also like ADHD, but now I'm medicated, so that's awesome. But to like figure to figure out like, okay, when do I spend the time on this stuff in addition to all the other things that I have to maintain for the gigs I already have. Like I just got a message from a festival that offered me a contract, and like today was the due date, and yesterday they were like, hey, you gonna send this in? And I was like, oh yeah. So I did it, but good job me. But it's so hard to like, I want to do new. I got so many ideas. I want to fit it in, but I don't know how or when. And then there's just, sitting around looking at Bored Panda all the time, which is also.
This is, I realize in terms of like things that are new with us, a podcast, I would love to do a podcast that, in the same way, it's like sort of John Oliver just doing a deep dive into something very specific and getting too nerdy about a specific folk song, like maybe a folk song that's done all over the Ren Fair, and then taking the time to show different versions, show exactly when it was created, why it was created, like all the different nuances. Which reminds me, I have one really cool opportunity coming up, which is that I was asked by a friend who's an ethnomusicology professor at MIT to come in and do a workshop for one of his classes on modern day performance of sea shanties and whaling songs. And so I'm going to be drawing on a lot of stuff from this podcast. Like, for example, when we had Tony on in terms of the history of Ren fairs, like giving them that kind of background, and just like picking a song that's done by 8 different groups and showing how it can evolve and how it's responded to and stuff like that. But I am super excited for that.
That's awesome. And also that podcast idea is so so right up your alley.
It's very,
very perfect for you. So you should probably do it.
You should.
Maybe I should.
I think that would be a great use of your multitude of talents and.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And your intellect
skills.
You're so freaking smart. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks, guys. You guys are too. I'm so happy to know you both. The podcast of love.
Podcast of love. Excellent.
I have started doing an extra thing too that is very exciting for me. I last year, I started directing other festival acts and being hired as like everywhere from like a consultant to like full on, like, I'm gonna sit in your rehearsal, stop, go back, like work on this stuff, and it's really, really fun. And so there's a couple groups I'm working with here in Arizona, and I worked with a sword fighting show last fall, and so I get to take all the performance things that I really think are important and that I learned when I was back on cast at Sterling and everything about interactive improvisational theater, and be like put them to work to help other people's shows hopefully be more exciting and better, and make them have more fun sometimes depending on who it is. And so that is really exciting. It's something that I'd wanted to for a long time, but because we all have imposter syndrome, I was like, I clearly can't do that. I'm not good enough to do that. But then I was like, I've worked a variety of different shows on on the circuit. Like I was singing group with Joust, with on cast, on another cast, sword fighting show, my show, blah, blah, blah. And also the training I got when I was on cast at Sterling was really fantastic in terms of character development and character relationships. So I realized, I've been on circuit for like 15 years. So I do have this like resume, and now I'm putting it to work, and it's really fun to talk to people about their shows. So I like doing that. And hopefully I will have more opportunities to do that in the future. If you're a Renaissance Festival act that needs a director or a consultant, give me a message.
And I've heard from people who you have tutored, and they've just been so thankful for all the stuff you've told them. So yeah.
Really fun.
Hire her.
Thanks.
Very good. Awesome.
Yeah.
Victoria, do you want to talk? I know this existed last year, but I just think it's so cool because I wandered past it so many times and I was like, about the music box.
Yes, I've been venturing into vending. So like as a performer, we get a day rate, and then we can get tips and CD sales depending on the festival, on how that's doing. I'm about at the max of my day rate. And so if I want to continue surviving in this now highly inflationary capitalistic experience that we're all rolling through, more money is necessary to fuel things such as my brand new house that I now have, which is on wheels, and I am delighted to exist in. But so that being said, vending is kind of the next step, and I am following in a long line of performers who also go into vending as a supplementary income, or as a passion project, or as a different function. So last year at Brevard, I worked with Asia from Music the Gathering, and we created the Music Box, which is a little like music shop at the Brevard Renaissance Festival. And so we had cajon tabs and hammer dulcimers and things like that, and little accessories and stuff. And it was just a delight to get to hire our friends for a fair in Florida in January, for one. So, and then also to be able to like just get to enjoy sharing music with folks and sell a few instruments. And then later in the year, I vended at Kentucky, and so I was able to use the experience that I had in January in Kentucky on a different venture. And then this year, I was able to use the experience from all of the previous year, all for the music box in here in 2023, and it was absolutely incredible to get to, like, it felt like an exponential growth of knowledge and learning, like, and experiences. And while there were still like some hiccups and things that we had to get sorted out, we had some really, really good problems. We ran out of stock, in the second weeks, and so it was just like our employees are just so good. Like, they sold absolutely everything, and had to go back to Asia and be like, oh, we got a whoopsie on this. So it was fantastic. We got some new instruments, some different things going on, and getting to explore what it's like to run a business from the vendor side, how the fair deals with vendors. I've always heard it was different, but now I know how different it is versus entertainers. And so coming to grasp with a lot of that. So I'm very excited for my now coming into Kentucky later in this summer. I feel a lot more comfortable as a vendor with tents, with setting up the tents, with fixing the payroll, with setting up the taxes, with preparing the software, like everything is like really kind of lining out. So that's been a huge undertaking and a huge learning curve for me over the past year now.
That's crazy and awesome.
Yeah.
And like, it does, like, I think it does take, a couple seasons or a couple of festival runs or a year or whatever to like figure out all that stuff, because if you've never had a booth before, you don't know how, and like you can't anticipate every single problem or every single thing that comes up if you've never done it. I have a question for you two, and because I was also going to say this. So vendor, calling the people who own booths and the artisans and stuff like that, calling them vendors to me is a fairly new thing in the industry. Like, to me, they were always crafters or artisans. Those were the two words. So anyone who is also unfamiliar with the word vendor as pertaining to Renaissance festivals, they're the people that have booths and sell things. But do you guys like, am I crazy? Did I just make that up? That it's not know. You both have the same expression at the same time.
Maybe it shifted around the time that I joined, but I feel like I always heard it in a more administrative way, sort of like, oh, there's a vendor meeting at this time, or like the vendors. Yeah, so I don't know. I never heard it split into crafters and artisans except through rescue. And yeah, so that's just my experience, but I've only been on the road sort of since 2014, more like 2017.
Yeah. We have a similar time frame, so I guess that's so it might be a more, back when there wasn't as much drop shipping, because I feel like, and again, this is us kind of talking outside of our skill set to some extent, but like that the amount of drop shipping and the jurying of fairs to only be, are you the maker of this item? This is the item. And I feel like this has been talked about here recently, in that now I think at one of the history podcasts, now we're seeing, the original crafters for, like, say, a pottery booth absolutely was on the circuit for a long time. And then their kid either took over, or they franchised it out, or they've got managers. So now they're just staying at home in the studio, and then somebody else is selling their stuff. So you're never actually meeting the crafter as much as you might have done in the past, but their art is still there, their impact is still there, but it's like a turnover from that.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it in that way, Victoria, but that makes a lot of sense, because it is, now you are the person, even if it's the child of, or the kid, or offspring or spouse or whatever, the person who actually makes it, they are not the artisan. So I hadn't thought. That makes sense. Thanks for explaining that to me.
Tune into the Ren Fair History podcast.
Yeah. and also, I think that I'm pretty sure you both just called me old, because you said that artisan crafter was before your time. And so.
Okay. So how else am I supposed to say you have more experience than us? So
you say you're a venerated, experienced festival performer who knows a bunch of stuff. I don't know.
I don't know. Venerated sounds old to me.
It does. That's true. You are a
Legit run around
sprightly
that.
young person who's been on circuit for longer than I don't know.
We're just giving you an excuse that even though you are an unknown number of years older than us, everyone listening to this and watching this will not know that and be like, wait, what? How does she look exactly the same as the other two if she's any number of years older than the other two?
It's Photoshop.
Well, to make you feel better, so Victoria and I were born in the same year, but like 6 months apart. And the other day at dinner, I called her an old lady. So because of those 6 months, so
6 months makes a difference, yo.
Mhm.
Excellent. All right.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that we wanted to cover on the general landscape?
Not general landscape, but I got to promote J.H. Fleming, the Music the Gathering author, for being absolutely awesome. Yeah. So anybody watching who may have heard about the first Music the Gathering novel, we have an amazing fantasy author based out of Oklahoma who comes to the Muskogee Festival, who approached us a few years ago and said, do you mind if I use your characters and create a fantasy novel around you? And we were like, do we mind? Are you serious? And so she just like presented us with a fully formed novel one day and was like, hey, do you want to sell this? And of course. And so now she came out with a sequel. And I just, along with her just like creating a novel about us and just being excellent, I want to give her so much credit for putting up with the kind of notes that we gave her. Because she did ask that, do you have any sort of general notes in terms of character stuff? And she, for this novel, asked us, she says, I want to bring in people from your experience to meet in this tavern. Who would you suggest? So we made a couple suggestions. There's a few familiar faces, including the Jackdaws. And so one of my notes that I had for her is she said there was a trio of people speaking quietly in the corner. And I had to tell her, anyone who has met the Jackdaws knows that 2 out of 3 of them speak quietly. And the third one, that would not describe what he does. And so like, having to give her very specific notes about like very minute minute details about members of the Renaissance Fair and her dealing with that. So a lot of props to her.
That is so cool. I love that books are
That's
becoming
very
more
cool.
of a merchandise object. I know that Judas and Magnolia have a D&D like one-shot book, and I think they're coming out with their second one now too. So you've got now 2 books, and I feel like there's something else. I'm actually working on a one-shot as well, but it is like it's like it's still in its infancy. It's still really gooey. So we're working on that. But like I love that books are a thing because it's such the right intersection of like what our fans want. And because like the ones that find us are often incredibly nerdy and they're just like, oh, paper? Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I think Fairly Balanced has like a graphic novel too, or maybe also maybe a D&D one shot, but I'm not positive. I want to do a series of children's books with Gwendolyn and ridiculousness.
I would love that. I don't know. Speaking of children's books, Martika, I like almost started crying over how cute her children's book is. I love it so much.
Oh
I haven't read it yet, but I want to.
Yeah, that's
she's a really cool person and has neat hair.
Yeah, yeah, she does inspirational speaking too. I ran into her in this like crazy offshoot of a gig in Wisconsin, and it was absolutely amazing to like hear her story and everything. But that's so cool. She's got a children's book.
Yeah,
So
I gotta get it.
Excellent. Yes.
There's an author named Jen DeLuca who wrote a rom-com novel called Well Met. And it takes place at a Renaissance festival. So I met her when she was working at the Lady Lakes Renaissance Festival down in Florida. And we talked about, like, I was giving advice or something, because that's what Gwendolyn does. And she talked about writing a book. And then like 2 years later or something, she messaged me and she's like, I don't know if you remember me, but I wrote the book. And can I come talk to you about Renaissance Festival stuff? And so she did. So she was contracted for 4 books in that series. And the 4th one came out in December. And there's a familiar green dressed character with an advice sign in the book. And I've had friends, both Renaissance Festival friends and non-Renaissance Festival friends, who like have taken a picture of the page and was like, hey, did you know you're in this? And I'm like, yeah, I haven't read it yet, but like, it's so cool. And she's awesome. She's this really sweet person. And she just recently posted she's contracted for another trio of books, I think, that I don't know about, but yeah. So it's really fun to like, yeah. And I hate rom-coms. I don't like them. But her book, Well Met, is just so delightful. And it's not, it's not one of those books that or books or TV shows or movies or whatever that kind of make fun of the Renaissance Festival lifestyle. It's the Renaissance Festival in her book is part of the whole of her life, the characters' lives, as opposed to when a movie is like, oh, they go to Renaissance Festival and they talk like that even when they're done and they have a hierarchy, then you have to bow to the queen all the time, even when the canning's done. And yeah, so it's a delightful book. So go read Well Met. Well, there are 4 of them. One of them is Well Traveled. I forget all the names. Sorry.
And so the 4th one is the one that you're in?
Yes.
Awesome.
Excellent.
And
I have
Gwendolyn's
that on
the
audiobooks.
acknowledgements of the second one. Do you?
Really? You're in the acknowledgement? That's cool. I was wondering
Yep.
if you made it in there like by name in that regard. But yeah.
Gwendolyn is in the acknowledgements.
Oh, excuse
for
me.
the second book. Yeah. Because she wrote the first one and then she came to Maryland to visit and her and I hung out at one of the pubs for like 45 minutes or an hour, just talked about the industry of Renaissance festivals and what it's like being a traveling performer and stuff like that. So that she could write with more knowledge rather than just guessing. So yeah, delightful books. Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Where are you guys going to be next?
I'm going to be at the Georgia Renaissance Festival performing as the Lady Victoria, but I will also be performing with Chari Garcia, and I'm very excited about that. And then I'll be vending in Kentucky, and then the whole run of the Ohio Renaissance Festival. After that, the one near Cincinnati, and then November in TRF, and then Florida again, hopefully for one of the small fairs, maybe Orlando, maybe not. Stay tuned. Depends on how some stuff goes with my family. But yeah, that'll be December. And then we whip back right around to the top again. It's a pretty tight. I think I've got I get to go to Penzic this year, so that definitely means I've got 2 weekends off, but not much going on. How about yourself, Liv?
Our next festival is Oklahoma. Doesn't start until the last weekend of April, though. So I'm going to the Grand Canyon and Zion. So personally, that's where I'll be. In terms of music gathering, we have not figured out our schedule post Oklahoma. We've got some stuff to figure out. So question mark there.
Super. And Nicole?
I am immediately after Arizona, I go to Scarborough, no time off between that. And then immediately after Scarborough, I hit the last 2 weekends of Virginia. So those are the first 2 weekends of June. And then I have a bit of time off. And this has been a year of I had time off last year. I don't know if I want that, but I might want that because I'm so busy doing other projects. So I'm I've got some open weekends in the summer. So I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing there, but I'll be in Maine in July and last weekends of July, and then back to Maryland, and then pending contracts for after Maryland.
Nice.
Love it.
I remember when I started back in the day when I started doing Renaissance festivals.
Did I hear that you were old?
Your face. I remember being I don't have anything booked in 4 months. What am I going to do? Oh my gosh. And so it's a relatively new thing for me to be I know where I'm going to be pretty much for the next several months at a time. And that is a nice feeling.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's a lot though. Lord, that's people be oh, let's hang out. And I'm cool. I'll be in your state October 2nd.
Yep.
Are you free then? And they're like, and I'm no, for real. That's the day.
I just cracked up because I got a message from an old friend from high school, and it said, "Hi, I just got my phone just alerted me that I now have to reach out to you because you will be in New York in 2 weeks, so we should plan something." I was like, "That's great.
That's awesome."
Yeah.
Good.
That's awesome. Aren't calendars on phones great?
They can be. They definitely can be. Hell yeah.
Legit saved me multiple times. It's It'll be like, oh, you got an appointment in 20 minutes. And I'm like, that's fun. Pajamas and like halfway through breakfast or something. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Ren Talks podcast. This is presented by the Digital Ren Fair. You can find us at www.digitalrenfair.com, as well as on Facebook and YouTube. This podcast streams on all of your preferred streaming sites, and each of us are national touring performers at Renaissance festivals across the United States. My name is Victoria Van Arnam, and I perform as the Lady Victoria.
And my name is Olivia Harding, and I perform as Liv the Druid with Music the Gathering.
And I am Nicole Skelly, and I am the Gwendolyn Show.
Super. Thank you, ladies. Ciao.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.